Namaskar. Thank you for a great response to the first session of the Bhagavad Gita classes. We look forward to your continued participation. Please do invite your loved ones to join in the inspiration. If you have missed the first session and want to watch it or revisit it, click the link in the description box. There is a special treat for Delhiites. Jaya will be in Delhi from 26 to 29 September for lectures on Bhagavad Gita for an Extraordinary Life at the Kamani Auditorium daily 6:30 to 8 pm. Click the link in the description for more details. I now request Jaya to continue chapter 1.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
The question is, in the last class we discussed how as long as you have a negative attitude towards a person, you can't deal with the person. You get handicapped. So how to tackle the situation? You have to overcome your emotions, your negativity. How to do that? Look at what is it in the person that you don't like. What is it that you dislike? What is it that you hate? More often than not, you don't come up with anything. So more often than not, you find that it is just a negative feeling that you have towards the person. Or it could be that the person has a particular quality that you don't like. Then you have to understand, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. Gunas function, traits function. You have a nature. You behave according to your nature, right? There are some pluses, there are some minuses in your personality. And you may be aware of your faults, you may be trying to overcome them, you are still unsuccessful. How do you expect the other person who may not even know that he has a fault and is certainly not making an effort to overcome it? How do you expect that person to overcome? It's not possible. So all that you can do is come to terms with the fact that here is a person who has this negativity. Now, what am I going to do with it? If this is a person that you have to deal with, is part of your family or part of your organization, you can't either leave the situation or make the other person leave. So you have to live with it. And you say, I'll live with it. Like the way you live with animals. You could be an animal lover. You love lions as much as you love a cobra, as much as you love a pup or a kitten. But the nature of these creatures is different. You have the luxury of picking up a pup and fondling the pup and expressing your love with the pup unhindered. You don't have that with the lion. You can't go to the lion and say, hey, give me a hug, I love you. So similarly, among human beings, different people have different natures. Some people are very lion-like, so you have to keep your distance with them. Some people are pup-like. You can openly express your affection for the person. So the whole thing boils down to your lack of assessment of the person and therefore lack of use of the intellect to figure out how to deal with the person. Once you realize that, once you come to terms with it, you have no problems. Krishna had no problems with anybody. Duryodhana adored him as much as Arjuna adored him. Dhritarashtra adored him, everybody adored him. Why? Because he just understood that here is a nice person with certain bad qualities. Exposure is bad. So why do you have good qualities? Because you were lucky enough to have had the exposure, right values, right upbringing. Okay? And once you understand the nature of the person, you know exactly how to deal with the person. There are sensitive people with whom you can't express what frankly. You have to always make guarded statements because they misunderstand. Then there are some people who are, like Shakespeare says, plain blunt man. They can, you can be absolutely honest with them, upfront with them. They will never misunderstand anything. They're just ordinary people. But most people are super sensitive or you just can't. You have to use your intellect and decipher how to deal with the person. Then you will not have a problem. If the other person has a problem, that is, you can't help it. Okay? Any other question? Okay. So, why do we need to learn the Bhagavad Gita? There are many, many reasons. But one of the most important reasons is that our mission, our aim in life is to reconstruct our personality, to revitalize our personality. It's like we are broken. We are not whole, complete. Some of us, or parts of us, have been like hacked away. Emotionally, internally, not physically. So, that being said, the other part is that the world cannot be depended upon. And what happens is when things are all right, we don't understand the need to study the Bhagavad Gita because everything is going on fine. But when problems occur, all of us are dependent on some part of the world. And if that goes, you're finished. Because it's like pulling the carpet from under your feet. And then you come to the Bhagavad Gita, it's too late. Too late with reference to that incident. For the future, you can fortify yourself. But it's like not having insurance and your car burning. No insurance company is going to give you insurance for a car that is burned down already. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita is about insurance. Take examples from real life. Onassis, the Greek tycoon, was born to a rich family, lost money, painstakingly made his fortune again lost it. I think his 32-year-old son died tragically, and he was heartbroken. He almost died. And he did die. His only child after that, he had one son and one daughter. At 35 or something, she died. And his entire fortune went to that Christina's child, who was an infant, I think. So, he had money, he lost money, he had relationships, he lost them. This goes on. Indira Gandhi, who was worshipped as a goddess after the 71 war with Pakistan, lost her election. If I'm not mistaken, lost the deposit. These things happen in life. And you may not be an Onassis. But tragedy, bad situations, all this will happen to all of us. This is part and parcel of the world. Are you prepared for it is the question. At peak of his career, Dhirubhai Ambani got a stroke. Isn't it tragic? And then he survived for quite a few years after that. But things like this happen. And if you're not prepared for it, if you're not fortified from within, if you haven't developed this internal strength, you're going to break into pieces. Nothing in the world can protect you then. So, now moving on, one of the most important teachings of the Bhagavad Gita is contentment. The Gita speaks of two concepts. One is santushta. Tushta is content. Santushta, supremely content. And when you're supremely content, there is anapeksha. Anapeksha, not wanting it. What a state. Take us from the time we wake up, we are constantly wanting, desiring, craving, longing for something or the other, all our lives. And therefore, we are discontent. So what makes you discontent is the question. As long as your focus is on the world, when your attention is on your body, mind and intellect, you're constantly demanding from the world because the body has its demands. It wants sense gratification. The mind has its yearnings and cravings. The intellect has its demands. So you can never be content. Shift to the higher. Highest is self-realization or God. Instantly you're content. Your demand cease. And this has nothing to do with what you have or don't have. The richest man in the world wants more. And there was a Sudama who was a complete pauper who wanted nothing. And Sudama's example is so inspiring. So many times we've spoken about it, so many times we think about it. Every time it gives us that little inspiration. No? Why? Because here was a person who was in poverty right from the beginning, all through his life. And yet never was he discontent. So there's a story of him at some stage. His wife had reached the limit of her tolerance. It is said that ever since that lady married Sudama, she did not know what it was to have had a full meal. Her stomach was always empty. So she reached the limit of her tolerance and told Sudama, "You say that Krishna is a friend of yours?" He says, "Yes, he's my dear friend." Then go ask him for some help. He's enjoying life as a king, and here we are suffering. So he agrees to go, not because he wants anything, but out of sheer consideration for his wife. And when he reached the door, he comes back and tells his wife, "But I'm meeting my dear friend after so many years. How can I go empty-handed?" This is such a fantastic concept in the Indian culture. You never go anywhere khali haath, isn't it? Wherever you go, whenever you go to meet a friend, a relative, even in hospital if you go, even though food is not allowed in hospital, you smuggle in something. Because that urge to give is so deep rooted. But they had nothing at home because they were in poverty. So his wife had to go to the neighbor and borrow a handful of poha, which is considered the cheapest possible thing. And she made it and gave it to him. And he went thrilled to bits that he was taking something for his friend Krishna. He goes to the palace and he sees the opulence and luxury there. And he feels so small. So he doesn't give the poha to him. They meet And it's like when you meet old friends, you talk about old times, the pranks that you played as kids, the mischief that you were up to in school, the friends that you had, and all that. And he completely forgot again. It was Krishna who asked, Sudama, haven't you got anything for me? So very sheepishly he took out that poha and gave it to him. And Krishna ate it with so much relish. And our man forgot to ask the purpose for which he went to Krishna. He forgot. It's not that he had dementia, please. Because asking was not in his genes. He was so content that he couldn't bring himself, he couldn't think of asking. So he went back home. Krishna understood. And when he went back, he found his humble hut had been transformed into a magnificent mansion. His wife and children were in the best of clothes and jewelry and so on and so forth. They were well taken care of. He understood this is Krishna's glory. And he proceeded. He didn't go and join the luxury there. He went on to realization. So, this is the fruit of contentment. You know? And where are we? So you must always compare. Why is it that we are discontent all the time? We're always wanting something, always craving for something, always feeling that we don't have enough. So this is because your mind is operating. As long as your mind is operating, you will always look at what you don't have. And there will always be one or two things that you don't have. Even if a person has everything, maybe his hair is falling, he's going bald. And that can be, you're laughing, but that can be a serious problem for people. So, all you have to do is understand that the law functions. No? The law of karma functions. Now, if you don't have whatever it is that you don't have a Mercedes, it's because of the choices that you have made in the past. You yourself have made those choices. So you don't have. If you want, you have to make those choices and make the sacrifices that will give you that. Nothing comes for free. And so, when you understand the law of karma, what will you do? You will be content with what you have. You understand that I have got the result of my own past actions. Whatever I've worked for, I've got. If I want more, I should work. So, your attention will be on performing your obligations to the best of your ability, wholeheartedly, happily. Not because you want anything. You find fulfillment in the very performance of that action. So, here he is talking about a person who's constantly, supremely content. We are just the opposite. Constantly, supremely discontent. Free from want doesn't mean that you should not aspire for more. The mind should be so content with what you have that it's not craving for more. But the intellect can aspire for a better situation. Let's say you have a Honda City. You can be content with it. But you can aspire for a Mercedes, fine, that's okay. And obtain it. But never should you be discontent with what you have. Why? Because you will then always be discontent. You will be discontent with a Mercedes, with a Rolls Royce, with a private jet also you will be discontent. So that is the law. Swami Ramatirtha said it so emphatically, so concisely. If you're not happy as you are, where you are, you will never be happy. Please learn this sentence. Write it down somewhere. Repeat it to yourself. Every time you're discontent, repeat it. Every time you're unhappy, repeat it. If I'm unhappy now, I will always be unhappy. But you think, I will be happy if I get this. I will be happy if I get rid of this person. Like a lady came to me and said, as long as my mother-in-law is alive, I will be unhappy. Which means what? It's a polite way of saying, I wish she died. So I told her, even if she dies right now, this instant, you will be unhappy because your unhappiness will shift from the mother-in-law to something else, someone else. So therefore, you must have a higher goal. As we said earlier, the purpose of life, your mission in life is to reconstruct your personality. Why are you looking at others? Let them live their life. Let them do whatever they want. You focus on yourself. And then you don't have time to look at others because there's plenty to correct with it. Don't you agree? So you have neither the time nor the energy to look at what other people are doing. And you are in such a precarious condition, one little thing goes wrong, you give up on life. Like in the legend of Bhagavans, this man was a brilliant golfer. The movie Legend of Bhagavans. He fell in love with a girl, she didn't love him, I don't know what the situation was, something happened. And he quit golf and started drinking. What a crazy thing to do. First of all, no woman is worth it. When I say that, I'm not against women. It's the same for men also. Nobody is worth sacrificing your life for. I mean, yes, sacrifice your life for a person is very noble, but not like this. You don't give up on life. So, Mirabai talks about this. How do you get this maturity in life, this steadiness where you're not running all over the place? Listen to this. So what she's saying is, when you fix a higher goal, when you surrender at the feet of the Lord, that is when this mitigai phera pheri, this restlessness of the mind comes to an end. Until then, you'll keep doing this. Oh, maybe there's happiness here, maybe there's happiness there. Maybe I should go to the United States, get a citizenship there. Oh no, maybe I should go to Singapore. This will go on and on. When does it end? When you fix a higher goal. When you dedicate yourself to giving, to contributing, to adding value to society, to the world, to others, then you don't think of yourself. Then this mad rush for, oh, I want a designer handbag, I want to travel here, there and everywhere, I want to do this, I want to do that. All this comes to an end. Gita confers two things on us. In the second chapter, there are two syllables, two phrases that he uses. Yoga karmasu kaushalam means yoga is perfection in action. and samatvam yoga uchyate. Peace of mind is called yoga. This combination very few people have. First of all, most people have neither success nor happiness. A handful of people, few people have success, but they lose their peace of mind. They're stressed out, agitated. And those who are happy, you go to a remote village somewhere, people look happy. They are content. But there is no dynamism, there is no activity, there is no success. The combination itself is difficult to get. That's what he's talking about. And this perfection is within yourself. The moment you think of success, you want to be more successful, what do you think of? Oh, maybe I should get an MBA from somewhere. Maybe I should do a course somewhere. Maybe I should gain more knowledge, one more skill. No, he says everything is within you. All you have to do is get yourself out of the way. Get your selfishness, your foolishness, your ego, your small-mindedness, your pettiness out of the way. Then magnificence, which is already within you, will just flow. And you see this. You should have experienced the best moments in your life. The moments when the best in you has come out are moments when you clean forgot to think of yourself. Isn't that true? Even a simple thing like making a cup of tea, you're totally engrossed in it. You're totally focused there. You're not thinking of yourself. The best tea comes out. It's the same with a musician, a cricketer, an Olympic athlete, you and me. So Pandit Dinkar Kaikini, an outstanding classical musician, said there are 3 ways of performing. He was talking about music, but it's applicable to all actions. One is repetitive. You learned it from someone. You heard, in those days there were records, or a tape recorder, or whatever. You hear music and you want to repeat the same. So you pick up the notes and you may even sing those notes properly, but you've missed the spirit. That spirit can't be repeated. Second, slightly better than that, is recreate. Sometime in the past you came up with a magnificent performance and you want to recreate that in the present. But that also somehow goes away because it's not the notes, there's something beyond the notes that makes a performance what it is. Stunning performance comes when you go beyond the notes. The best way to act is every moment creative. So you start from scratch, you're giving your best to it, you're not thinking of the past. So for that, you must have this combination of total dedication to your goal, whatever it is that you're engaged in. And you must love it. So see the people who excel in their fields, like Nadal is dedicated to tennis and he loves it. So when someone said it's about money, he really got irritated. He said, no, it's not about money. Sachin Tendulkar, I saw a video of his recently, and he was talking about, the person asked him, what were your best moments? Was it when you won the World Cup? He said, no, it is when I was out there practicing on my own in the hot sun. These were my best moments. Why? Because I loved it. And he's described how in Shivaji Park they would play from morning till evening, no water, no food, nothing else. And suddenly after it was all over, they were ravenously hungry. They'd go and have 4 vada pav somewhere. so you can feel the love that they have. Similarly, you should have this combination of dedication to a higher goal, and you must just love it. You must fall in love. You can be an outstanding cricketer when you fall in love with cricket. You can be an outstanding musician when you fall in love with music. Don't waste your time falling in love with people, not worth it. So, tamas is a state where you are content, no doubt. But there is no inspiration, there's no motivation, there's no goal, there's no activity, no action. That's not what we're talking about. It's a state of tamas, worst state. Rajas is a state where you're active, you're dynamic, you're running around, you have goals to achieve, but you're discontent. And discontent is the motive for your activity, which is most of us. You wake up on a Monday morning, you say, oh, I don't have this, and so I must get it. I don't have enough money, I need to get more money. I don't have a big enough home, I need to get it. I don't have a luxurious car. So if discontent is the motive, the agitation of the mind is the base for all your activities. So it's like being handicapped. What we're talking about here is a sattvic state where the mind is at peace because it's free from craving and desire, and the body is extremely dynamic. So intense activity in the midst of total serenity of mind. You must visualize this, then you can get there. So when the mind is calm, the intellect is sharp, clear, precise, actions brilliant. When the mind is agitated, the intellect can't access your own knowledge. And so you make mistakes, errors, flop. That's what happens sometimes to a cricket team. The first two players play brilliantly. After that, tuck, out. Why? Mind is agitated. So, what will make the mind calm is gratitude. If you make a list of all the things that you've been blessed with every morning, because it will never be exhausted. Today you might think of 5 things that are there, tomorrow you'll think of other things. And remember this. And then you will suddenly be aware of the fact that the best things in life come for free. So you don't have to be rich to be grateful. And then your attitude changes from how to grab from the world to how may I serve. So anyone you meet, so service is not like joining an NGO or some going out of your way to join a Rotary or a Lions Club. It's about, and I'm not saying you should not join, it's about being service minded in every interaction. Your driver comes in the morning, being of service to him is at least smiling at him and asking him, how are you? How painful is that? But we don't. We're all sullen, long faces. Just smiling at somebody else is an effort. What can I do for you? How may I be of service to you? If you have that attitude towards everybody, everything that you do in life, you'll be a supremely happy person. Content, happy. Because the law is give, you gain. Grab, you lose. Look at examples from life. People who give, gain the most. Even in business. So when Starbucks was started, this group of Americans went to Italy, their idea was not just to make profit. Their idea was to introduce the cafes that are in Italy to the Americans. It's an experience. Those of you who've been to Italy, the people don't just drink coffee and run. It's an experience. So they wanted to replicate that experience. And the chairman of Starbucks wrote an email or sent a message to all employees saying, when you serve coffee, you must add one extra ingredient in every cup of coffee that you serve, and that is pour your heart into it. What a fabulous thing. Can you imagine? You know, the guy, the barista sitting there, it's such a boring job. Just making coffee for people. But if you pour your heart into it, and that is how Starbucks became a sensation. I've heard people in the United States say, I don't wake up till I go to Starbucks. I don't go to work without having coffee at Starbucks. I mean, it has this kind of following. I'm not suggesting you go there, please, because there are other reasons. They're just loaded with sugar. But that's what it is. So, change your attitude from profiteering to offering. In today's world, you go social media, Instagram, Facebook, you hear stories of people who've become millionaires. You don't hear stories of people who have done service. You do once in a while. But that is what it is about. When your attention shifts from profiteering, see, the Gita is not against your making profits, please. The Gita is not against your becoming rich. The Gita says that prosperity comes to you as a byproduct of your working for a higher cause. That if you make a byproduct the main purpose of your living, then there's something wrong. So, there was a businessman who wanted a property from an old man in Pune many years ago. He wanted to start some commercial activity there. So here was this old man who was living in a bungalow, in a house, alone. And he was retired. He didn't have that much money, he just had the house. So this man went to him and offered to buy the house. So every time he made an offer, the guy would think, maybe I can get more, so he would back out of the deal. So this gentleman went to him and said, Uncle, you tell me the highest price that you think you can get for your house. Huh? I will give you 20% more than that. What more do you want? It was an offer he could not resist. So I asked him, I said, why did you, first of all, when he thought of the highest price that he would get, that was also imaginary. It was much more than the market price. And on top of that, you offered 20% more. Wasn't it a loss to you? He said, in business, it's about timing. I wanted that property as soon as possible. Here was a man who could not decide. So I just helped him decide. I made him an offer that he just couldn't resist. And so what if I gave extra money to this? Let him live in comfort. So he had this attitude of giving, even in a commercial transaction. And how much he profited from it. So, as long as you think of yourself, you will always be discontent. You'll always be insecure. You'll always feel deprived. Think of others who are less fortunate than you in whatever way. And try and make their life a little more comfortable. You'll be content. This is a law. So we had covered up to verse 10 last time. We'll continue now with verse 11.
अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि.
This is Duryodhana talking to his people. So he says, all of you standing at your allotted posts, defend Bhishma alone. Bhishma was the patriarch who had given up the kingdom for which these guys were fighting. And that the moment he gave up the kingdom, he became an ordinary soldier and he was fulfilling his duty as an ordinary soldier. But because of the sacrifice that he had made and the extraordinary warrior that he was, even at a ripe old age, he was one of the bravest. And Duryodhana wanted him to be protected because, strong as he was a man of values. And in those days, a man never fought physically with a woman because the understanding was you don't fight someone who's weaker than you. You fight your equals, unlike nowadays. So Shikhandi was born a girl, and she was Amba in her earlier life. So there were three sisters, Amba, Ambika and Ambalika, who Bhishma got to marry them off to Vichitravirya, who was the king, the father of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. So Amba said, I am already married to somebody else, so I can't. So he let her go. When she went to the king, he said, I can't marry you because you already went with another man. So she was stuck, poor thing. She went back to Bhishma and said, now you marry me. Bhishma said, I can't because I've taken the vow of celibacy. And she was so mad with Bhishma that she vowed that she would kill him. So in her next life, she was born as Shikhandini, the girl, who, now I don't want to go into the details how that happened, became a man and was Shikhandi. But in Bhishma's mind, he was still a girl because he was born a girl. He would not fight. So that was his weakness. And the Pandavas used that. They sent Shikhandi to fight Bhishma. Bhishma just did not fight. And he was killed by Shikhandi. Look, what character was shown in all these individuals who fought in that war were of outstanding caliber. So he virtually committed suicide. And Duryodhana knew that this was his weakness. That's why he's telling everyone, protect him. The other reason is, for any endeavor, you need a higher goal. Duryodhana the Kauravas had nothing but their selfishness and their stupidity to fall back on. So they badly needed Bhishma. And that's why he was afraid that if they lose Bhishma, they've lost the war, which actually happens. So when you have an ideal, it inspires the people and it integrates people together, it brings people together. Like what happened during the independence movement. Imagine how they got the whole country to speak as one, to act as one. They didn't have WhatsApp, they didn't have email, they didn't even have telephones. But when you have a higher goal, everyone comes together. This is what we need at this time. We are just following our own greed. Each individual is running after our own passion, and we care two hoots for anybody else, not even our own family members. This is our condition now. So we need to get together and work for a higher cause. What that cause is, you have to find for yourself. 12.
तस्य सञ्जनयन् हर्षं कुरु वृद्धः पितामहः सिंहनादं विनद्योच्चैः शङ्खं दद्मौ प्रतापवान्.
To gladden him, the majestic grandsire, the senior-most Kuru, Bhishma, blew his conch and raised a lion's roar. So with this, we enter the third topic of this chapter, the armies blow the conches, verses 12 to 19. Bhishma was a central character, the hero of the Mahabharata war, even though he was fairly aged at that time. And he was an epitome of service and sacrifice, and his charisma, his personality attracted everybody. See, even today, when you see someone who has sacrificed, who's worked hard, you feel that awe and admiration for the person, isn't it? This can never be matched by the richest guy around. Yeah, you read about them, you know their faces, you see them splashed on social media, but they don't invoke the same admiration and respect that a sacrificial person invokes. So victory comes from this inner strength, because in chapter 13 verse 23, Krishna gives the role of Atman. What role does God play in different kinds of people? Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwaraha. In a criminal, a person who is doing wrong, what does God do? Upadrashta, onlooker. He just watches what's happening. He plays no role in it whatsoever. Because actually the role of Atman is neutral. You can use the same power for positivity or negativity. But then, watch what he says after this. Upadrashta, then when you become a little unselfish, or at least not criminal, then he becomes Anumanta, permitter. He allows you to do what you're doing. So you feel that little help. It's like tailwind that you get in a plane. You know that, no? When you travel west, you're against the wind. So that is factored in the number of hours that your flight will take. But when you're coming back, invariably the flight lands before time, because you have a tailwind. So it's like that. Anumanta, then Bharta, filler. And you have to actually experience it. You have to follow this and experience it. Then you get the confidence. So when you become righteous, when you become unselfish, when you have a higher goal and you're working towards it, suddenly you find that, things are going right in your life. It's almost as if you put in 90,000 in your bank and God puts in 10,000. I mean, I'm putting it monetarily so you understand, but it's like things become so much easy. You find that the forces of nature seem to be helping you. This is Bharta. Then Bhokta, you become the enjoyer. You enjoy whatever you're doing to the hilt. You see, most people who are in business or they're working in corporate life or whatever it is that they're doing, they don't enjoy what they're doing. On a Monday morning, you see the hundreds of cars going to work. Don't look at the driver's face, look at the boss's face sitting behind. The bigger the car, the longer the face. You sit there looking so glum. So here, when you turn unselfish, you enjoy life. Every moment of your activity, every moment of the work, hard work that you put in, you enjoy it. Bhokta Maheshwara. And then you become Supreme Lord. And that power that comes from unselfishness is something amazing. You know, you don't abuse it, but you just know you have it. You pick up the phone and speak to someone, the person agrees. You go to a doctor will see you. Be sitting in the clinic with 100 patients there, the doctor will call you. Why? Because you are, see, it's not that he's doing you a favor. You have already paid the price for it. Because you've been sacrificing. And people recognize that. I mean, whether they recognize or not, God ensures that it happens. So Bhishma was like that. Whatever Bhishma touched turned to gold. He was the senior most in terms of age and yet the most valiant fighter. Duryodhana was demoralized. So to cheer him up, Bhishma blew his conch. Completely selfless act. He knew there was sure death waiting for them. He knew there was no way that the Kauravas would win. Why? Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Pandavas were righteous, Kauravas were unrighteous. So Bhishma knew there was sure death waiting for him. But he was just doing his duty. Amazing person. The question is that when you begin to do service, to start giving, the thought comes to your mind is, if I do this, then what will happen to me? For which you have the answer straight from the horse's mouth. Krishna himself has answered that never does the doer of good meet with misfortune. What a statement. In chapter 6, because Arjuna asked the same question. What will happen to me? He says, the doer of good will never meet with misfortune. And in the following verse, he gives two possibilities. If you are unselfish, but still worldly, then you will be born in a prosperous home. Happy and prosperous home. So this itself is like heaven. Because rich people are usually not happy and happy people are usually not prosperous. So you'll be born in the home of Shrimatam Gehe, the home of the prosperous, and Sukhina. But the real selfless person is born in the homes of wise yogis. And birth such as this is very difficult to get. Why does he say that? Because, we are practical people. We'll say we'll settle for the happy and prosperous. He says, no, the birth in a wise home. And the environment in which you find yourself gives that push, which you can't demand it, no? You can't demand that you must be born in such a family. You must earn it. How? Through unselfishness. And it's not about just the family. Even within a lifetime, you don't have to die and be born. Within a lifetime, if you change your thoughts, your environment changes. You'll find yourself in the company of like-minded people. And that is why we are saying that come to the class physically. Because however much technology has developed and blessed us with so much, which helped us during COVID when we couldn't physically go places. But it can't make up for the vibes that you get, when you're physically there. I'm sure you noticed it. That's why we're going back to these physical lectures, which in fact in Delhi we're having from September 26th to 29th at the Kamani Auditorium. Why do you think, why would we go through so much expense, so much hassle, so much of hard work? One event like this in Delhi takes up more than a month's work of all of us. and so much expense. Why would we do that? We're not mad. It's because the power of collective satsang is so great. You can actually feel it. Like when even here, so many of us have come together to study the Gita. There is that purity in the environment. So it has an impact. So Duryodhana was demoralized, and so Bhishma blew his conch to boost his spirits. Next verse.
ततः शङ्खाश्च भैर्यश्च प्रणवानकगोमुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तु मुलोऽभवत्.
Then all of a sudden, conches, kettle drums, tabors, and cow horns were beaten, raising a riotous noise. So, noise is an external depiction of what is happening in the mind. And you actually see that. The more the agitation of the mind, over the years, you must have noticed, like in the 1950s, the music of the 50s, whether it was Bollywood or Hollywood, was music. Soft, gentle, soothing. And over time, it just became faster. And then there was, what is it? Acid rock. And it's just noise. And loud. Why? Because it matches the agitation of the mind. So person with the agitated mind feels comfortable with this level of noise. So here the entire Mahabharata was an external depiction of what is happening inside. Sanjaya was narrating this to Dhritarashtra. When the mind gets agitated, there is noise externally. You create the noise externally. And desire and its modifications tear your mind apart. You have no idea what havoc one desire can cause in your system. And we are full of desires. And we are promoting these desires. The environment is promoting it. And you're stuck. So what is desire? Desire is the strategy of the intellect to fulfill an unfulfillment felt within. So you experience this emptiness within all the time, all your life, from birth to death, from morning to night. And as a result of this, thoughts come in your mind, they go out into the world to obtain objects and beings to fill that void. But that void never fills. All that you experience is then the modification of desire, which is, the first thing is, when the desire gets obstructed, desire means there is a thought flow from you to that object. When there is an obstruction, something comes in the way that prevents you from gaining the object of desire, your thought flow that's going towards the object gets deflected towards the obstruction as anger. Like, you have to go to an important meeting, you get stuck in a traffic jam, you're angry. Or you're all dressed up to go to a wedding and it rains heavily and you're angry with the rain. So things like that. So krodha is anger. Then what happens when the desire is fulfilled? It's not as if you're calm. What happens? Greed, lobha. And then even that greed is fulfilled more. You get deluded. You think you're the conqueror. You think you can get anything with your wealth or power. That's moha, delusion. And then you get arrogant, mother arrogance. You get arrogant towards people who have less than you, and you are envious of those who have more than you. So matsarya is envy. And then there is bhaya, fear. Desire is fulfilled There is fear that the son-in-law will take it away from you. Or somebody, neighbor maybe. The way out is what Sant Tukaram said so beautifully. Listen to this.
देवाताई सा करी उपकार देहाचा विसार पाडी माझर देहाचा विसार पाडी माझर तरीच हा जीव सुख पावे माझा.
So here he is asking, when we go to God, we ask for, what do we ask? For more money. We ask for more luxuries. We ask that our daughter may get married. We ask for something or the other. Here is Sant Tukaram asking, may I forget my body? Only then will I gain sukh, happiness. What a state he must be in. So that is what it is. You want freedom from desire, you must rise above desire to obligation. So if your life is based on just obligation, you instantly become free of desire. And what happens? You get the object of desire. The law is rise above desire, the object of desire comes to you. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, it will come. Who does money come to? Those who just focus on merit, on just doing their job. They become rich. Manu Bhaker, who won not even the gold, 2 bronzes she won in the Olympics, the recent Olympics. The first bronze when she won, she was asked, what was going on in your mind? She said, I study the Bhagavad Gita. And I have learned to just perform the action and not focus on the outcome. Okay? So she won. Instantly, that moment, her earnings, which were in lakhs, just shifted to crores because of endorsements. Obviously, she didn't think of endorsements, otherwise she wouldn't have gone anywhere near the Olympics. And what obstacles she met with compared to the Tokyo Olympics, from there, she had to lift herself up and overcome all kinds of obstacles to just qualify for the Paris Olympics. So that's what happens. Money, fame, power comes automatically to a person who rises above desire. And the highest is God, where all your desires vanish and the whole world comes to you. You need to, when you listen to this, you need to go back home and actually put it into practice. Say, okay, this is a desire I have. How do I rise above it? And action it out. And when you see the result, my God, you say, if one idea can give me so much, what will the entire Bhagavad Gita not give me? So please do that. And I'm not saying that it doesn't make a difference to me. I won't even know what you're doing in your life. But I'm only saying this because I have applied it. I've done it like this. And I've seen the results. And you feel like, I can't explain the joy that you feel when you see it enacted. The law, the knowledge, it just comes alive. And because if you've made the trouble of coming here every Wednesday, you're sitting here for an hour and 15 minutes. If you don't do this, you don't benefit from it. So what a pity. That's the thing. So, the next verse, 14.
ततः श्वेतैर्हयैर्युक्ते महति स्यन्दने स्थितौ माधवः पाण्डवश्चैव दिव्यौ शङ्खौ प्रदद्मतुः.
Then Madhava and Pandava, sitting in the majestic chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their divine conches. What a magnificent, dramatic introduction to Krishna here. It's a transferred epithet. You know what a transferred epithet is in English? Huh? See, it's like this. Sitting in the majestic chariot, the chariot is not majestic, it cannot be. It is the people sitting in the chariot, it's Krishna's aura that is transferred to the chariot. It's a poetic way of saying Krishna is majestic. White horses, purity. White denotes purity. And it's so beautiful. Sounded their divine conches. The conch can't be divine. It is Krishna who's divine. And it's so true that a spiritually evolved person exudes this to everything around him. So it is his divinity that has spread to the chariot, to the conches, to the everything around him. And it's poetically and so beautifully presented. It's a fabulous introduction of Krishna. So the personality is magnificent, majestic, not the chariot. The chariot is the epitome of beauty and strength. Krishna, when they blow their conches, it means Krishna and Arjuna have accepted the challenge. Bhishma blew his conch, so someone from the Pandava side has to accept, which means the battle has begun. Divine conches, because everything Krishna did was divine. Everything was selfless. Wonderful. If you have that devotion for Krishna, it comes out in this. And mind you, this is Sanjaya narrating. Sanjaya, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, can't withhold his admiration and love and respect for Krishna. It just comes out. It flows in almost every verse. Next verse.
पाञ्चजन्यं ऋषिकेशः देवदत्तं धनञ्जयः पौण्ड्रं दद्मौ महाशङ्खं भीमकर्मावृकोदरः.
Panchajanya was blown by Rishikesha, lord of the senses, Devadatta by Dhananjaya, winner of wealth, and Vrukodara, wolf-bellied one of formidable prowess, blew Poundra, the great conch. So he is now describing Krishna, Arjuna and Bhima, the main characters of the Pandava forces. And Krishna starts. So in any endeavor, you find that the initiative is taken by an assertively good person. And in this case, it is Krishna, the leader. So you can't wait for an ordinary person to take action. You've got to be the leader. You've got to take the lead. So he started. Rishikesha means one who has complete control over the senses. So it all starts with the senses. In the second chapter, Krishna says the first stage of a perfect individual is one who has complete control over the senses. This is something that we can't say about ourselves. Simple thing like food we have no control over. And the names of the conches they've given be like, have you seen car lovers, people who love cars and collect cars? They give names to their cars. Have you heard of it? Vintage cars they give names. So your conches have names, chariots have names. Dhananjaya, winner of wealth, Arjuna had fought many battles and earned a lot of wealth for his state, meaning he was a dynamic person, a man of action. Vrukodara is wolf-bellied. Bhima had a voracious appetite, which is not that he just ate food, but he had the appetite to digest all kinds of experiences. and he infused terror among his enemies. This is the kind of reputation that Bhima had. 16.
अनन्तविजयं राजा कुन्तीपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः नकुलः सह देवश्च सुघोषमणिपुष्पकौ.
The son of Kunti, King Yudhishthir, blew Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew Sughosha and Mani Pushpaka. So the Pandavas were 5 in number. Yudhishthir, Arjuna and Bhima were Kunti's sons, so they were called Kunti Putra. That's why he's emphasizing on Kunti Putra. And Nakula and Sahadeva were Madri's children. So the difference. Now, watch. Here is a battle for the kingdom. But he says, Raja, King Yudhishthir, which is a way of communicating, it's a prophetic statement, communicating to Dhritarashtra, the blind king, that you do what you want, man, but Yudhishthir is going to be king. Pandavas are going to win. So you might as well stop the battle right here. But he doesn't listen. A sweet sound to a warrior on the righteous path. The sound of a conch is like, it's a sweet sound. It's like to a cricketer, the pitch is the most sacred thing, the most beautiful thing for him. So here the battle has begun. The next 2 verses are taken together, 17 and 18.
काश्यश्च परमेश्वासः शिखण्डी च महारथः दृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च सात्यकिश्च पराजितः द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्वशः पृथिवीपते सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः शङ्खान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक्.
The expert archer, king of Kashi, the great warrior, chariot warrior Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Virata, and the invincible Satyaki, Drupada, sons of Draupadi, and the mighty armed son of Subhadra, they all blew their conches, respective conches, O Lord of the earth. Lord of the earth is Dhritarashtra. So king of Kashi was a valiant king, and his daughters Ambika and Ambalika had married Vichitravirya, and they were the respective mothers of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Shikhandi and Drishtadyumna were Drupada's sons, which means Draupadi's brothers. Bhishma was invincible because of his tapas and his sacrifice. Virata was the king of Matsyas, in whose kingdom the Pandavas stayed in the 13th year of their exile, where they had to be incognito. And Virata's daughter Uttara married Abhimanyu. That's what he's calling. Saubhadra means Subhadra's son, who was killed most unrighteously by the Kauravas. And his son Parikshit ultimately became the king after Yudhishthir. Sanjay addresses Dhritarashtra as Lord of the earth, means you are the king, Dhritarashtra, and your duty is to follow your, fulfill your obligations. Don't get mixed up with attachment to your sons. So, see, Sanjay is the subject, so he can't directly tell the king, but indirectly he's constantly suggesting to Dhritarashtra to put an end to that war, because any war means destruction, devastation, loss, which in our time now, it's not just about war, actual war fighting. Fortunately, we are not experiencing that yet. But we have all kinds of battles, right? Sibling warfare, boardroom battles, courtroom battles, all kinds of battles. If nothing else on the road, you uh, hit another car, everybody gets down and starts fighting. So this fighting is part of our lives now. So if each member performs obligations, there is no conflict. Even within the family, in an organization, in the country, there cannot be conflict. If you're just performing obligation, the problem arises when you want more than your share of profit. Then the problem comes. And this you see all over. So you have to think, what do I really want in life? Is it the few crores or lakhs that I want? Or do I want my peace of mind? Do I want to leave this earth with a clean slate, clean conscience? Or do I want to live with all this baggage, which I'm going to have to pay for, not only after death, in this life I'm paying for? Is it worth it? Because in the end, all the wealth that we have, see, let's face it, none of us is going to actually convert that money into enjoyment, right? It's all savings, which means what? Zeros. Isn't it? You have 5 crores. 5 is only one number. The balance is all zeros. For those zeros, you're giving an arm and a leg, you're sacrificing your life. Is it worth it? You must think. And anybody who gives up, not gives up from a weakness, gives up from understanding higher values. That I will not give up my peace of mind for just money. That person becomes a conqueror. That person becomes powerful. You know? And I'm not saying just give up the money. I'm saying do what you have to do, but never give up your values. Because that's what makes you. Your character is defined by that, right? Very sad. All blew their conches means there was unity and solidarity among the Pandavas. I hope you are getting as inspired as I am in just communicating these ideas. I just didn't realize how an hour and 15 minutes passed. It's so inspiring. This, mind you, is only the first chapter which has the least philosophy. The best is yet to come. So, again, I'm appealing to you to get more people to come so that they may experience the beauty and grandeur of the Bhagavad Gita and apply it in their lives. These sessions will go on a weekly basis, and the webinars will be every Saturday 6 to 7:15 p.m. So do inform the people who are not able to come here, they can also access it. That's the reason we are doing it. And as I said earlier, in September 26th to 29th, we're having a series of lectures on the Bhagavad Gita for an extraordinary life. And this is unique because we're not taking a chapter. We're extracting a few verses from the Gita, which help us as individuals lead an extraordinary life. So it's like we are doing the homework, we're doing all the hard work and presenting it to you in Delhi. So I'm sure, why am I talking to you? Because I'm sure every one of you has some friends, relatives, colleagues, someone or the other, even enemies in Delhi. So please inform them, give them, we've sent the invitation on the communities. If you're not in the community, please register with one of them so that you'll be in the know. So pass that invitation on to the people in Delhi and Thank you.